This video will demonstrate the process of scanning a full denture. In this particular case, it will be a full upper and lower denture and the bite, just by simply holding the dentures in your fingers and setting them on a countertop and coming out with a great scan. The first step, as always, is to set up the scan. Now, with the Medit, you have options, kind of like you do with other systems. You can pick a crown, or you can pick a splint, other things like that. But frankly, all we really want is the scans. The software doesn't have to know what we're scanning. So just simply open up a new case right here, set it up, give it the patient name, and scan away. When you open up the new scan, it'll give you options: upper, lower, bite, and then later it'll also give you an option to do study models, which you shouldn't need unless maybe sometime in the future you're doing a comparison, or if you want to scan a denture with and without a reline. I'm not 100% sure why you would need either one of those, but Medit is nice because it does give you options for additional scans of prosthetics or prosthetic changes, study models, i.e. So when we scan a denture here at Road Dental Lab, we espouse scanning the intaglio first, as opposed to the teeth first. I personally have scanned dentures with every scanner available in North America, and I have failed on every single attempt when trying to scan the teeth first. So instead, tried flipping over to the intaglio. It works really well. I believe it's because it's not as shiny as the palate of a denture, and the scanner just doesn't get lost the same way. So scan the palate first and start with the borders and scan all the way around the borders, because I think these scanners, they like to know the full scope. They need to know the full scope of the scan. You wouldn't just start scanning the left vestibule to get it entirely and then add more. No, we found that the best way to do it, just like you're scanning teeth, is to scan the full border all the way around, then come back around, scan deeper into the vestibule. I'm sorry, scan up scan up to the ridge. It's a reverse. Scan up to the ridge, and then slowly start to add more scans. And with this scanner, the field of view, that box, is a little bit narrower than other scanners. Like the Trio scanner is a little bit wider. So be careful that you're not trying to add brand new data in, that you're always overlapping existing data. So when you take a swath, when you come back around through the ridge, that you're also grabbing some of the labial. On this scan here, and you'll see in some future scans, you want to put the tip down inside the vestibule, because it doesn't matter how close it is to the subject, it matters how far it is from the subject. So you can actually put the tip down inside, rotate it toward the vestibule, and scan away. So the intaglio of this is just about captured. You don't have to get it perfect at this point. You really don't want to bog down the scanner with thousands and thousands of scan images. You want to really capture the overall denture, intaglio, and the borders, and then you kind of come around and you start scanning the border a little bit better, because you have to start rolling over to the labial surface. You see how that's happening here? Roll it over to the labial. I probably went and captured a little bit too much of the labial here, kind of got a little carried away, but I'm going to come back around now and try to pick up the border and then come around to the other side of the border. Now with the Medit, it'll play the music. It'll play the music, kind of a repetitive tune, and you know that you're scanning, and it'll skip on the music, and it'll slow down, get a little quieter, and skip if you're not acquiring new data. So don't keep moving. You want to go back and try to orient yourself to keep the music going. You can kind of hear it in the background. It's going okay. And I'm going to keep scanning the border. Scan the border, scan the border. Keep going until you've got it captured. You know, maybe the top of the border, maybe a little bit of the labial, the buccal. And now I'm going to attempt to roll over and capture the labial. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit. I got a little bit stuck here, and I got a little bit stuck throughout the entire scan of the upper and lower, but not too much. And I did not have to cut any of this video out to try to trick the audience into thinking that I scanned it but failed and had to go back. This was only the second time that I've ever scanned a denture with the Medit, and was very successful with it this second time, going by the intaglio first. So you'll notice that sometimes it's picking up some other artifacts, because often I have the denture sitting on a countertop and just aiming the square at where I want to scan, and sometimes it picks up the counter, sometimes it picks up my fingers, but I make sure that I'm always scanning something that's already been scanned. You see, even the square now is grabbing the border and is grabbing the labial or the buckle to add it in, so it always has a reference of what's already been scanned. Alright, now the easy part for the scanner, it picks up teeth, no problem. I'm going to speed this part of it up, and this part's going to be a little bit faster. This is where I took about 9 minutes and condensed it down into about 60 seconds. The one issue with scanning the palette is the shiny areas, and the Medit just seems to scan it very well. This was a fairly shiny denture. We use the same denture in all of our scans. And once you scan the teeth, you scan the palette, you always just keep coming back to the teeth as a reference. And then you bring the scanner down to the palette, back up to the teeth, down to the palette, because you can always recognize the teeth and then come down and fill in. And you'll notice there's one little area that I'm kind of struggling with in the palette, which is always the case with dentures, but you just keep trying, going back, trying, and this is where you have to be the most careful, because yes, you'll leave some little holes, you want to come back and scan them, but what you'll find is if your scan fails, it's going to fail at the distal vibrating line, the butterfly, the distal extension, the palate. You'll notice when you're looking at the denture from as if you're in the back of the mouth looking forward, that there is sometimes two little slices. You can see it here. See that? One's a little higher than the other. So I'm going to add some more scans, scan the palette. I'm going to come down the palette from the intaglio, come down the palette, and I'm going to fill that all in. And then it turned out just perfectly. Okay, now we're going to scan the lower. Now I've tried scanning the lower from the intaglio first, and I struggled. So I'm going tooth first, and I really never had that much problem with lowers scanning, because it just doesn't have that large shiny palate area. So scan all the teeth, just like a crown and bridge scan. And we'll go through this one kind of quickly. I'm going to condense this from about 9 minutes down to about 2, and we'll go through it real quickly. Right, most of this will just be kind of intuitive. Follow the teeth around, come back down to the lingual, and then just try to scan the borders. Scan the teeth and the borders at the same time. I actually came around from I put the scanner in the back of the mouth rather than coming down from the tongue side, because the denture is outside of the mouth, so you have a little bit more flexibility with how you scan. And here, this is where you scan the borders, and then you also capture some of the intaglio while you're scanning the borders. It's kind of a neat trick. So it picks up kind of like two birds, 2 scans with one scan, 2 acquisitions with 1 scan. So you can see it goes pretty quickly. Really doesn't lose much on the lower. You can acquire the prosthetic pretty easily. There is a little bit of a trick with the posterior, with the distal. You want to be able to capture those distal flanges and not leave any holes back there. So you just kind of have to do a little bit of trial and error in the back by just keep grabbing the teeth and going back, grab the teeth and going back, and you'll be able to fill those holes. You see that? The little voids there. And then you can always, around the anterior intaglio, you can really just stick the tip of the scanner down inside of that of the denture to scan that part. Okay, now I had a little scanning error on one of the flanges. It just kind of got a double scan, and it gave a little notch right? You can see the notch down there where it just did not scan it, and I couldn't pick it up. I couldn't go back in and fix it because it was a missing part. It wasn't a new part, it was a missing part. So what I did instead was when I went into the cutting tool, the trimming tool, and I removed that area. I think everybody who works with the scanner knows how that part works. And I just simply removed it and rescanned it. Here, I'll show it in just a second. Right, so you don't want to remove any of the other flange. So where is it? Where's the tool? The tool's up in the top left, right here. A little cropping tool. Hold on here. Right there. Crop it. Tool. Took me a second to figure out how to actually crop, but you basically make a lasso like that, and you click it and you hit enter and it disappears. A couple of little trial and error here, and enter, it's gone. Okay, then you just come back and simply scan it and it fills it in. Works really well. And I wish I would have recorded that part, but it was real simple. Just scan and fill in that little, the missing little notch. It was fast. And now I'm kind of analyzing it, and I'm noticing there's some holes here and there. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some scanning. The labial flange on the intaglio of the labial flange on the undercut was missing. So I literally take the tip and I stick it down inside of the flange. And I drag it along the flange. It's actually touching the flange. Then that keeps it real steady with the subject, you know, with the denture. So just keep scanning until all the holes are filled. Okay, just a little bit of touch up, and then we come back with the bite. I think it has to render a little bit here. We're in a little fast motion. Here we go. All right, and then capture the bite. And the trick with the bite with any digital impression machine is don't just stop once you get an arch. Keep scanning, because the larger the bite, the better it is that we at the laboratory can reorient if needed. Sometimes these cases come over and they're in the bite, but sometimes they're not in the bite. And then we have to put the 3 sections together or 2 sections together. Just keep scanning until you have, I don't know, half the arch at least. And then you're done. And this was a beautiful scan. Really nice and clean. You can zoom in on it, have a look at it. I was really impressed with this scanner. In fact, this was on the level of 3-shape Trios scanner, just about the same level. I think the Trios was a little bit faster, but very smooth and high quality.